Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Marina Grosser from Washington, D.C. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Pope Francis has gifted fragments of the true cross on which Jesus was crucified to King Charles of Britain to be placed in a processional cross. It will then be used during his coronation ceremony on May 6 in Westminster Abbey. The two fragments of the true cross have been placed in a cruciform manner behind a rose crystal gemstone in the processional cross. Made of recycled silver, Welsh slate, and recycled wood, the processional cross was a gift of the King to the Church in Wales to commemorate its centenary in 2020. After its use in the coronation ceremony, the cross will make its rounds across the church in Wales and Roman Catholic churches in the nation. The church in Wales, which is a branch of the Anglican Church headed by the King, said in a statement that the gift of the relics from the Pope is a significant ecumenical gesture. In the United States, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito gave an order on Wednesday which extended the court's temporary pause on all restrictions on the abortion drug mifepristone. The extended halt will last until 11:59 p.m. on April 21st. This comes in the wake of the high-profile lawsuit filed by the Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine against the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, which limits the use of the abortion drug across America. The Biden administration's Department of Justice made an emergency request to the Supreme Court last Wednesday to block curbs on mifepristone made by the lower court rulings. The generic abortion drug manufacturer GenBioPro filed a lawsuit against the U.S. Food and Drug Administration on Wednesday to keep mifepristone available on the market in spite of the ongoing legal battle. Fighting in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum, has confined terrified citizens inside their houses and workplaces for days as the military and its rival paramilitary organization made another try at a 24-hour ceasefire on Wednesday. The latest ceasefire came as concern grew that the preceding 5 days of fighting between the nation's two most prominent generals had put millions of Sudanese on the verge of a disaster. Meanwhile, in a joint statement, the Catholic bishops of Sudan and South Sudan urged the opposing parties in Sudan to put an end to the ongoing hostilities and return to dialogue to protect civilian lives. Armed conflict broke out on April 15th between General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan's army allies and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces under the command of General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo. Since the conflict began, Reuters has reported that at least 97 civilians have died and 365 have been injured. At least 78 people were killed and dozens injured in a stampede in a school in the Yemeni capital Sana'a during the distribution of Ramadan alms. Social media videos of the aftermath of the incident in the city's Bab al-Yemen neighborhood depict a chaotic scene. Hundreds of people reportedly crammed into the school to receive donations, which averaged about $9 per person, according to a Reuters report. Houthi rebels have been controlling the city since they overthrew the government in 2015. The Interior Ministry reported that those in charge of the distribution have been taken into custody and an inquiry is ongoing. Meanwhile, addressing the faithful gathered in St. Peter's Square for his weekly general audience, Pope Francis called for prayers for Yemen. He called the country a land that has been wounded for many years by a terrible, forgotten war, which has caused so many deaths and still causes so many people to suffer, especially children. Democratic Governor Laura Kelly of Kansas vetoed a bill requiring clinics to inform patients that a chemical abortion can be reversed using the abortion pill reversal regimen. In August 2022, she also resisted state Republicans' efforts to ban abortion. She vetoed a pro-life bill for the second time in a week. The governor also rejected a measure last week that would have made doctors subject to legal action and criminal prosecution if they failed to provide adequate care for infants born alive during certain abortion procedures. The state's most powerful pro-life organization, Kansans for Life, referred to last week's veto of the law addressing medical treatment for children born during botched abortion procedures as heartless. Kansans for Life spokeswoman Danielle Underwood said the governor was siding with the extremist abortion industry. The case of a Christian mail carrier who refused to work on Sundays when he was compelled to deliver Amazon packages was debated by the Supreme Court on Tuesday. The court appeared to be broadly in accord that organizations like the Postal Service cannot use trivial expenses or hardships to deny such requests to accommodate religious practices. In the case at hand, a mailman from a small Pennsylvania town was informed that starting on Sundays, he would have to begin delivering Amazon packages as part of his duties. He declined, stating that he uses Sundays for his family and church activities. Officials with the U.S. Postal Service initially attempted to find replacements for the man's shifts, but they weren't always able to do so. The man eventually filed a lawsuit for religious discrimination and resigned. The Florida Board of Education has cracked down on the instruction of sexual orientation and gender identity in the classroom. The latest amendment prohibits school instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity to kids in pre-kindergarten through 3rd grade. The amendment states that sexual orientation and gender identity education are not allowed in grades 4 through 12 unless they are explicitly required by state academic standards or are part of a lesson for which a student's parent has the option to have his or her child not attend. The new restrictions will also strengthen the Parental Rights in Education Act, which Governor Ron DeSantis signed in March 2022. In North Carolina, Republicans introduced a bill in the General Assembly on Tuesday that would prohibit drag performances on public property or when a minor is present. The one-page bill was introduced a few weeks after a viral video showed a drag queen giving a young student at a public school a lap dance. Republican State Representative Jeff Zenger introduced House Bill 673, which would change the definition of live adult entertainment. The bill outlaws such live adult entertainment on public property or in a location where it is in the presence of an individual under the age of 18. As of Wednesday, the bill had 17 sponsors. If passed, for the first offense, violators would receive a misdemeanor sentence of up to 5 months in jail. And for subsequent offenses, they would receive a Class 1 felony sentence of up to a year in prison. Two American liberal organizations that brand themselves as radical feminists joined congressional Republicans in supporting the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. Known as H.R. 734, this act seeks to limit biological males from taking part in women's sports events. The Women's Liberation Front and Women's Declaration International USA joined the Republican ranks in support of the act. In an interview with Fox News Digital on Wednesday, President of Women's Declaration International USA, Kara Dansky, said her organization reaffirms women's and girls' sex-based rights and challenges the discrimination experienced from the replacement of the category of sex with that of gender identity. Dansky also referred to Article 7 of the Declaration of Women's Sex-Based Rights, which demands that sports be kept single-sex. In violence-hit Haiti, the Archdiocese of Port-au-Prince has called on authorities to protect citizens and places of worship. This appeal comes on the heels of the kidnapping that took place at the Oratory of St. Bartholomew in the capital on April 13th. At the end of Holy Mass, offered by Archbishop Max Leroy Mesidor, armed men stormed the church and kidnapped several people and left 2 others with serious injuries. In a statement, the Archdiocese said this act of kidnapping is one too many, undermining the integrity of a sacred place of worship and the freedom of movement of people in the country. The Archdiocese of Port-au-Prince also expressed its indignation at such acts which spare no one and respect no place. It also urged the authorities to prosecute those who operate the kidnapping industry and profit from it. Ever since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in 2021, the nation has plunged into chaos, with armed gangs roaming free and engaging in turf war, claiming the lives of innocent civilians and in taking part in kidnappings for ransom. Popular social media platform Twitter has quietly ended free speech restrictions on transgender issues. The earlier guidelines stated that to misgender a person meant to refer to a trans individual by the gender that matched his or her biological sex, which did not match that person's gender identity. So-called dead naming meant referring to that person by his or her name given at birth instead of the name chosen after the shift in gender preference. Ever since billionaire Elon Musk acquired Twitter in October last year, he had promised to expand free speech on the platform, hinted at his opposition to certain shift towards political correctness, and reinstated thousands of previously banned accounts. In Sri Lanka, Cardinal Malcolm Ranjith of Colombo has invited all citizens to join a campaign seeking truth and justice for the victims of the 2019 Easter Sunday bombings. The church in the island nation is preparing to observe the anniversary of the tragedy on April 21st. On that day, Christians of all denominations and people of other creeds have been invited to join a human chain protest in the capital. The demonstration, which has been given the theme of "We are watching until justice is done," will begin at 8 a.m. local time at the sites where the blast took place. Those who are taking part in the protest will form a line at 8:30 a.m., which will last until 9 a.m. They will also observe 2 minutes of silence at 8:45 a.m. when the explosions rocked the nation. The Cardinal has also exhorted people to observe 2 minutes of silence at their workplace in solidarity with those who perished in the blasts. Ever since the blast took place, the Cardinal has been relentlessly pursuing the cause of justice and the truth behind the attacks. Elon Musk has slammed transgender interventions for minors, saying that any parent or doctor who sterilizes a child before they are a consenting adult should go to prison for life. Musk tweeted his opinion as a response to an MSNBC article that blamed Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for introducing bans on discussions of gender identity to students. The tweet has since gone viral on Twitter, which is owned by Musk. Meanwhile, American evangelist Franklin Graham came out applauding Musk. In a Facebook post, Graham, the president of Samaritan's Purse, said that it's shameful that any adult would be part of feeding this confusion and pushing children over a cliff that is built on lies from the pit of hell. Graham said that children and young people are suffering the lifelong consequences of drugs and surgeries that maim body, mind, and spirit. His post ends with a call to put an end to transgender procedures. 2 Swedish politicians have come out with concrete measures for the nation, and they include supporting European Union and United Nations sanctions on countries that oppress religious minorities. David Lega and Yusuf Aydin, who are Christian Democrats belonging to the KD party, are also demanding the installation of a special ambassador for religious freedom. They said once Sweden gets international support, then it should work with the United Nations to draft a resolution. It would mandate governments in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia to protect Christians and other religious minorities. Both leaders also said that the appointment of a religious freedom envoy would be instrumental in drafting trade pacts and reporting rights violations. They cited the example of Canada and Denmark, which have appointed religious freedom ambassadors. Both Aydin and Lega said that the new government of Sweden has taken the lead to address the needs of persecuted Christians. And those are your latest headlines. Join us again tomorrow for more. You can also visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.